Live from Kokomemle, this is the AM show and we get into our big stories. But before we get there, Ghana, let's talk about water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right, the tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is a champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Rain or shine, Syntex tank has got your back. So go outside right now and check. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Here's a number to call: 0244-335-168 to buy one or to find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntex.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. Ben will tell you more.
Well, let me tell you about how Joy News, in partnership with an amalgam of professional bodies, proudly presents the next edition of the Public Speaker Series. Now, on Monday, the 28th of April, 2025 at 6:30 p.m., it's going to be live on the Joy News channel, and we invite you to join keynote speaker David Ofosu-Dorte, senior partner at AB and David Africa. There's also going to be Professor Peter Quarte of ESA. There's going to be Professor Godfred Bokpin as well, together with other thought leaders, professionals and change makers, for a powerful national conversation on the theme, transforming Ghana's economy, time for a mindset revolution. You don't want to miss this powerful national conversation. Be a part of the change. Now we continue from here. Sweetie will usher us into the next conversation.
Yesterday, news broke out that one person had been killed in an alleged clash between a group of military men and some youth of Nyinahini in the Ashanti region. 3 others have sustained injuries. We've got our tabs on this and we'll get a report, and then we'll engage our reporter on ground, and then we'll get some security analysts to put the issues in perspective. First, let's take a look at the report.
The identity of the deceased is given as Akwesilala, aka Kushivi, 37 years. The injured include Kofi Ejapon, 44, Alfred Kwate, 24, and Kofi Ousu, aka Juve, 36. According to an eyewitness, Reverend Francis Nyameche, the officers confronted the youth for use of camouflage attire, resulting in a clash. The military allegedly shot into the crowd, resulting in the death and injuries recorded.
The military asked him to take off the camouflage. He obliged by taking off his shirt. They insisted he takes off the trousers too. The deceased told them he couldn't go naked in public. So it resulted in a scuffle. The military started shooting in the air after the youth pelted them with stones. This resulted in the killing of Kushivi and injury of others.
The community has since been thrown into a state of fear. The police have commenced investigations.
Nanaya Ojima joins us with more details. Nanaya, so from what I understand, all this is over the camouflage uniform that the military were asking this individual, who's dead now, to remove. Tell us more.
Exactly. According to our eyewitness, these military people were in a truck, and the youth were on their way to bury one of their own who is deceased. So the military spotted one of these people wearing the military camouflage, and this is the reason why the military stopped, came out of their truck, confronted the young man and asked him to take off the camouflage. The young man obliged. He did take off the shirt, this camouflage shirt. He also wore a camouflage trouser, so they wanted that also off. And at this point, the young man told them that he's unable to do that because he'll go naked if he does that. And this didn't go down well with the military. It resulted in a confrontation between the two parties. Now, it's believed that the military started shooting in the air. The youth also pelted these military men with stones. Now, at a point, the military were retrieving And it was at the point when they got into their track from the eyewitness that they shot into the crowd, killing this particular individual. That's Kushivi. Now, the report that we are getting and the press release from the police, they are virtually same stories, aside from the fact that the police couldn't mention when exactly the military shot into the crowd. But the police also gives a story similar to what our eyewitness is giving us. But the police are on the ground and they are conducting some investigation into the issue. They've already picked some spent shells, cartridge shells from the scene. So they've started their investigation and they've assured the public that a thorough investigation will be done. Mind you, this is not the first time that in this month that the Ashanti region is recording some deaths as a result of military excesses. Not so long ago, two young men were picked from Asafo. Allegedly, it was alleged that they've stolen a mobile phone. These people were taken to the military barracks. They were beaten, allegedly beaten, and they were dropped somewhere within the Kumasi metropolis, and these people died as a result of that. That particular issue is presently in court. The military men have already been sent to court and they were remanded by court. This brings to the number of such deaths and that resulted from military excesses 3 in the Ashanti region just this month. And this has raised some concerns within the people of the region.
Right, Nanaya, Ben will come to you in a bit. And Benjamin, I don't know what the fuss is about civilians wearing camouflage. Perhaps when we get to our guest, I can understand what the law really says.
That's exactly what I was about to get into, because in no way, shape or form do we support, any such abuse. But at the same time, in no way, shape or form do we support such abuse. But the point also must be made. If you are impersonating, a military officer or something of the sort, it comes with some consequences. Not death, of course, that's not what I'm suggesting. But do we also have the education in terms of what can be done? Because there is some camouflage that, there are some, should I say, fashion elements that make their clothes with camouflage. But what you see the person wearing is different. If it mimics the exact military, attire, then it becomes something else. And that's where really the trouble is. Nanaya Ojima, in your interactions with these people, what was the take in respect of that? The person donning camouflage, military uniform.
So according to the people, they know that to some extent it's a crime or it's not lawful to wear something that belongs to the military. Now, that is the reason why this young man obliged when they told him to take off the shirts. He knew that he had committed an offense. According to the people within the community, he had committed an offense, so he obliged to all that they said or they told him to do. Now, it was at the point that they wanted to take his trousers, which is also a camouflage, that this person, hesitated. And according to them, he told them that if he should take it off, he will go naked. He had nothing wearing beneath. So he pleaded with them to allow him to, go in the camouflage. And this didn't go down well with them. They still wanted him to pull off this trouser that he was wearing. It was at that point that the people tried to intervene, leading to the confrontation. So according to them, the young men and other people who are around who saw the things unfold, they actually agreed that the young man Kushivi had gone overboard with the wearing of the uniform. He shouldn't have done that. It's wrong, according to them. So he obliged, and they all accepted. But it was at the point that the military wanted him to show his nakedness by taking off this camouflage that the people believed that or thought that it was.
Can we confirm that maybe he had nothing underneath, for which reason if he took off those trousers? Because you have to understand from the military perspective, that uniform belongs to the military if it's proven that that was actually official military attire. which should not be used by a civilian. Mind you, I keep saying, I'm not justifying what has happened. We are trying to forestall this happening another time, which means that they can't take the upper part and leave the lower part. It doesn't belong to you. It shouldn't be in your hands. Was there any attempt to get him maybe something else to cover his nakedness while maybe the trouser could have been taken? Because I'm struggling to understand what exactly happened in that regard.
We are unable to independently verify that, and probably we'll get more information as we go into the community and try to speak to different sources within the community. We are unable to verify that he was offered something else to replace the military uniform that he was wearing down.
It would be interesting to even find out how he procured this military uniform, what channels he used to actually get it. Because I can't just get up and put on naval attire without there would be consequences for that. But we also have Adib Sani got in the conversation.
Before we go to Adib,
were you saying something?
What I wanted to say is that we are unable to independently verify that what he had on is actually a military uniform or something that looks like a military uniform. So we'll try to find out more about what he had on, if possible, get exact pictures of these uniforms, that the camouflage that he was wearing at the time of the incident. The picture that we are showing now are old pictures of this young man that we were able to get from people within the community. But what he actually wore on the day, we are unable to say that these are the same camouflage that we see being on display on the television.
I'm reading that the community is in total darkness. Can you confirm that?
Very true. These are people who were saddened by the death of one young man who they say was very popular because he was a commercial transport owner. He was very popular within the community. So upon his death, they had all gone to mourn him and also try to take him to the cemetery for burial. And on their way there, getting this or seeing this also unfold with 3 people injured, one of them in critical condition who had to be transferred to the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital, is something that was too much for the community to bear on the day. Now, with the police presence in the community, some of them were reassured of getting justice. So they are now trusting the police to go into the matter, find the truth, and if possible, those who are culpable are brought to book. So they are now trusting the police to do a very good investigation on what has happened.
Sweetie, before we bring in Adib Sani, just 2 quick points. Again, he makes the points about the fact that we can't independently state that what he was wearing at the time was military uniform. But again, as far as I know, and I'm sure Adib will clarify, you shouldn't put on anything that bears a striking semblance to what officials would use. If it's camouflage, like I said, the fashion type, that's different. But if it's very much akin to what the military itself would use, that's something else. And let's also bear in mind, anybody, putting on something that is essentially like what a soldier would put on, then if they acted in a certain way, it could qualify as impersonation. And then sometimes something would happen and then we would say, oh, Papa Soldier or a soldier did it, when in fact the person may not be a soldier. We have to look at it holistically.
Let's listen to the security analyst, Adib Sani, now. Thank you for joining the conversation, Mr. Sani. So what does the law really say in terms of civilians wearing camouflage?
A very good morning to you, your viewers, and of course your production team. There's a law on the restriction of use of military uniforms and equipment, actually 1967, NL 177, and it's quite categorical about military uniforms that are not supposed to be worn by civilians. And it also states that unauthorized persons should not sell or buy military uniforms, and that licenses are not supposed to be issued for the importation of such uniforms as well. So the law is very categorical about the illegality of wearing military uniforms. And like Ben said, anything that bears a striking resemblance, even in registering your company, you take a big name like multimedia group, then you go to register multimedia groups just by adding the S. I mean, unsuspecting people might think that is the original multimedia they know. So anything that bears a striking resemblance, I think that's the gray area in the law. It has to be looked at to include that aspect as well. Because you can go to court and the person goes like, this is not your uniform, for crying out loud, you know. So we need to look at that part of the law. But, you know, in as much as, like has been agreed, we detest persons wearing military uniforms because we know the security implications. Remember some time ago, an individual dressed in a security fatigue was caught somewhere at a brewery near the presidential villa. Then there's this gentleman who was so bold to the extent of even attempting to board a military flight, even though he's not a soldier, and he was in military uniform. We've had several cases or incidents involving criminals wearing security uniforms to engage in all manner of criminality. And it has become a fashionable thing. I see a lot of politicians wanting to be called commanders, wearing the military fatigue, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. But when the average Joe person in the street wear it, then you have sometimes, you know, these young officers full of adrenaline wanting to strip them naked. And I think it's unacceptable because there's no law that says if you see anyone wearing a military uniform, immediately there and there, the person should go naked. No, it is an illegality. So what do you do under the law? You arrest the person, you go and hand the person over to the police for the police to do their investigation. I remember back at the University of Ghana, I was a vendor. I mean, one day we were sitting outside of Commonwealth Hall, and one of our guys was in the military trousers. Then from nowhere, a military vehicle was passing by, stopped when they noticed, got down from the vehicle and asked him to strip, like in front of everybody. The guy complied because he was, of course, scared he might be arrested or something else might happen to him. So the thing regarding getting people to strip for wearing uniforms, I think it's something that should be stopped. I don't think that has been enough to disincentivize people from wearing the uniforms. I think we need a much more pragmatic, scientific approach to dealing with it. Asking people to strip, in my opinion, hasn't really helped much.
Right.
If you look at what you referenced, NLCD 177, 1967, it talks about the fact that no person shall wear or use any military uniform, equipment, accoutrements, or other material unless he is, it goes on, a member of the armed forces of Ghana. But I just saw an interesting story, and it's actually dated the 14th of April, 2023, and it's from Ghana Web. So I'm quoting with caution as well. But assuming this is true, in there, what Ghana's law says about restriction on use of military uniforms, I see something pertaining or purporting that Peter Lanchini Tobu, who has actually been an executive secretary to an IGP, says there's no law against wearing military camouflage in Ghana, and he's the member of parliament for Wa West. I just want to quote him and find out whether there's a lacuna that we ought to be addressing and whether that act is still in place, because according to the story, he states that there is no existing law in Ghana barring the wearing of camouflage by civilians. Let me just quote him. The principle is simple. If you're a police officer, you dress in a uniform to show that you are an officer. And if you're a soldier, you are a soldier by training, but the uniform is symbolic of who you are. And so if you are not a police officer or a soldier and you are wearing army uniform, they, that is the military, have the right to question you. The law restricting the use of military uniforms by civilians applies only to military uniforms actually used by that's what he says, a military, let's say professional. Whether they have stopped using it or not is immaterial, but that uniform must have been part of a military wear in Ghana or abroad. Then he talks about the fact that the solution lies in banning the import of similar, types of uniform. where do we lie? Is that clarity there? And moving forward, to forestall any such altercations and maybe death, what do we do? What should be the way forward?
Well, the law, I know. I mean, it's an old law, just as the arms law. We need to look at it. I think a lot of things have changed over the period. And it is a law that is so old to the extent that it is almost forgotten. Because when I speak with a lot of people in the streets, I ask them, do you know there's a law? They go like, what law is it? We thought it's just a practice. It's just a custom, don't wear the uniform. And that's it, So we need to look at it and, of course, address the gap in that law as well. Anything that looks similar to security uniforms should be banned. But the thing is, we have some individuals who procure these uniforms for different reasons. Some for, TV production or perhaps movie production and all that. But you would have to seek the permission, the tacit approval of the military before you'll be able to do such a thing. So there's a need also for public education. I mean, people in their quest to look up, to look like, they are in charge, the commander. People, I don't know what it is about commander. I see a lot of civilians, they love to be called commanders. And you would have to demonstrate that, yes, indeed, you're a commander by wearing the camouflage, which is illegal and should be discouraged. But I think we need to relook at our approach. Asking people to strip certainly is not the solution. And also, Ben, about the altercation that resulted in the death of the gentleman. In the use of force, there are laws, okay?
Right.
They say that you have to use force that is equal to the threat. So if these individuals are not armed and they are just screaming, shouting competition, you are not in a position to use deadly or lethal force. Okay, I was not there, so I wouldn't be able to tell. However, if the people pose an immediate threat to death or injury, then you have no option but to use that deadly force. And you see, I am an operational person.
Just to substantiate, Adib, just to add on to what you're saying before you go on, we have two messages here. One says you take a man's life because he's wearing military attire. Done. That's what he says. But there's another message that also says, why are they showing only this video, but not showing the videos where the youth were throwing stones and trying to take one of the officers' rifles? We do not have that footage. But then that would be interesting in respect of what you are saying, wouldn't it? Please go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. If they pose an immediate threat to the officers, then the officers have every right to defend themselves by shooting at the crowd. Do you remember the story of this young man? I've forgotten the name in the U.S. during the Black Lives Matter protest. He was armed. Then, according to him, he was attacked by the protesters and he shot at them in an attempt to flee. The issue gained international notoriety. It went to court. And in the end, he was discharged. He was found not guilty of the killings. Okay? So if they feel threatened, they have every right to shoot. However, the threat shouldn't be exaggerated. That is why it is imperative that we do an investigation into this matter. Forensics, then ballistics. You'll be able to know at what point the gun was fired and at what angle, and the person or the deceased posed any immediate danger to the officer. And like I indicated, Ben, I'm an operational person. I mean, I've received this training. I even lecture on this thing often. The thing is, sometimes, you see, these are young officers. Like I said, sometimes they are full of youthful exuberance and, that adrenaline. Don't put yourself in a sticky situation. Always assess. This crowd I am going into, how would they respond to me? Would it pose any danger to me? I mean, do we have enough manpower, fire? Do we have enough strength to go in and sort of neutralize them? But sometimes we don't assess. We just go in, hey, buka, buka. Then in the end, you might find yourself in a very sticky situation which could have been actually avoidable. Like I indicated, and as you have also said, you and I were not there, so we might not have the full picture. That is why it is important the police does an investigation, the officers involved, because this is an officer involved shooting. They would have to be debriefed. Their weapons would have to be taken from them for investigation to continue. I understand some shell casings were picked up. We need to know, did the bullet come from the soldiers or it came from elsewhere? Perhaps it's a different person who wanted to shoot at the military and it ended up getting one of them. We wouldn't be able to know. Okay, anything is possible at this point until an investigation is conducted.
While we wait for that investigation or the conclusion of that investigation, what security threats does this incident pose to that community in particular? Nana Ojima just confirmed to us that the community is in total darkness in connection to this. What are the security threats that we should be looking forward to so that we can, they say to one is to be for arms, so yeah.
Yeah, I am concerned about the possibility of reprisals by the community. Immediately, I think the military high command, together with the IGP and other security chiefs, should go in, see the chiefs, see some important stakeholders there, and appeal to them for come and assure them. And I speak also as a communicator and, of course, a change management expert. Assure them of their outfit's unflinching commitment to conducting a thorough investigation into the matter. They have to make a call to the youth to exercise restraint. Otherwise, you might have some few hard nuts, some few extremists taking advantage of what has happened to vent anger towards the military. And we wouldn't want that because, like I always indicate, there is no way the military or any other security agency can succeed without the civilian population. We need to harness our relationships based on mutual trust and respect. We need to get the civilians to cooperate with us so we are able to get actionable intelligence, because most of the intelligence comes from civilian sources. But if you have an antagonistic relationship with the civilians, then it creates a lot of problems. So I think there's still a window of opportunity to de-escalate and to get the community members not to do anything silly and rather resort to the law.
Right.
Okay. And I think that is very important at this point.
Adib Sani, security analyst, thank you for joining us for this conversation.
And that's a rather sad, development there. And we're only delving into it to ensure that the right things can be done moving forward. Now, the question, are you looking for a home in a prime location? Nestus Homes has got you covered. Our properties in Tema Community 26, just behind the Palace Mall, offer a serene atmosphere, easy access to transportation routes, and social amenities. Off-plan prices start at 35,000 USD, and that's US dollars, of course. You can reach out to them on 0531 014 440 or 0531 014 447. You can also check out their website at www.nestas.com.gh. Nestas is Nestas, sweetie.
We are still talking about that exclusive Easter sales promotion happening now in all CompuGhana branches. Now, from now to, in fact, it started from the beginning of the month till the end of this month, you get up to 50% off when you buy top brands like LG, Samsung, TCL, HP, Lenovo, Tecno, Infinix, itel, and many more. You can win what? An 85-inch smart TV, iPhones, laptops, juicers, rice cookers, and so much more. All you have to do is shop for laptops, printers, television sets, air conditioners, and many more at CompuGhana. With a minimum of 1,000 Ghana cedis purchase, you can enter into the draw by simply texting your invoice number to the special short code. Now, the raffle draw is on the 2nd of May, so rush now and don't miss it. Shop online at www.compughana.com or visit any of our showrooms nationwide. Or if you want to give us a call, here's the number to call: 0302 752 020, or send us a WhatsApp on this number: 0243 143 143. Benjamin, what's the title of your blunt thoughts for us coming up next?
A shaky judiciary, a sick hospital, and a spicy minister in Semwa, Ghana. That's what I'm serving you right up next. Do stay.